Hi, I'm Zaylee, and welcome to my Rhombocosa dodecahedron of interests. Today we're in the paranormal corner. So, something you should know about me is that I'm a skeptic. I'm open to the idea of believing in ghosts and such, but I don't think we have significant proof, or that the proof we have is necessarily reliable or specifically points to ghosts. That being said, while I don't really think ghosts are real, I am 100% sure about aliens. And I feel like that's a bit unusual because I feel like most people who believe in one typically also believe in the other, but I have a reason for that. Let's talk about ghosts, aliens, and probability. Something I can say with 100% confidence is that aliens do, have, or will exist. Now, this doesn't mean that I think the proof we have of alien encounters are real, because I honestly think they're dubious at best. If you replace a few words in alien abduction stories, or in the old stories of people getting abducted by the Fae, you get pretty much the exact same stories. This, of course, could be for a few reasons. It could be that both are completely made up, and stories of alien encounters just evolved from stories about the Fae. Or alien stories could be real and were being misinterpreted as the Fae. Or it could be the other way around. But none of that really matters because I don't need any of that to prove that aliens do, did, or will exist. Picture for me a deck of cards. I shuffle the cards and ask you to pick the top two. You get the King and Queen of Spades in that order. I shuffle the cards back into the deck and ask you to pick the top two cards again. What is the probability that you will pick the same two cards in the same order? You don't have to give me an exact amount, but you should be able to approximate that the probability is pretty low. There are 8 times 10 to the 67th power possible shuffles of a standard deck of cards. That's 8 followed by 67 zeros. And you could get any one of these possible shuffles the second go around. But what if I give you 5 shuffles instead of 1? What about 10, 100, 1,000, or 1,000,000? The more chances you get to shuffle and choose, the more likely it is that you'll eventually succeed in picking the King and Queen of Spades. The closer you get to infinity, the closer you get to 100%. If you have an infinite amount of tries, then you absolutely will reproduce your initial result, because even if you have to go through every other possible shuffle before they repeat, 8 times 10 to the 67th power is still less than infinity. As long as we know that the King and Queen of Spades are in the deck, which we know because we've already pulled them, then we know that given infinity, we will pull them again. So why is this important? This is important because our universe is expanding. Right now, there is an estimated 100 billion galaxies in our universe, and as it continues to expand, even more come into existence. We don't know for sure yet, but as far as we can tell, our universe is infinitely expanding. This means that, at least from a hypothetical standpoint, our universe is infinite, and has potential for an infinite number of galaxies and planets, each with the potential to support life. So we have infinity, now we just need to prove that aliens are in the deck, as it were, and that's child's play. All we need is to prove that life is capable of spontaneously arising on a habitable planet, and that's what we are. We are the product of spontaneous life arising on a habitable planet, so we know it's 100% possible. We are like the King and Queen in the deck. Because of our infinitely expanding universe with an infinite number of galaxies, we can pretty much guarantee that because we exist, other life will eventually exist somewhere in our universe. And who knows, maybe we're not the first shuffle. Maybe aliens are already out there. The universe is a big place, so we just might not have found them yet. But it's also very possible that they existed and died out long before us, or that we really are the first life in the universe, and we're just gonna have to wait for everyone else to get with the program. Really, we just won't know until we find them. On the flip side, we have ghosts. If we continue with the deck of cards as a metaphor, then if aliens are like the King and Queen of Spades, then ghosts are like the Jokers. The thing about Jokers is that not every deck has them. They might be there, but without checking the whole deck, you don't know. We can't actually say whether or not ghosts are real until we have full proof of their existence. Something I think is important to note when talking about the possibility or non-possibility of ghosts is how, from a conceptual standpoint, impossible is impossible. To put it simply, if you can't 100% prove that something is impossible, then there is always a small chance that it is possible, even if that chance is incredibly small. Instead, it's better to talk about things in terms of probability, because something may not be impossible, but that doesn't stop it from being highly improbable. Because of this, my official stance on ghosts is that they aren't impossible, but that we don't have enough proof to say that they're probable. There's a lot of supposed proof out there, but I feel like not enough of it is accounting for other variables. Most people who are doing research on ghosts either already believe in ghosts or want to prove ghosts are real. This opens them up to bias in the way they interpret their data. It can cause them to overlook other possible reasons, both simple and complex, for why they got the data they did if they feel like the data supports what they think they already know. It's easy for data to look like it's pointing to multiple different conclusions, and you won't know which one is the right one unless you make an effort to disprove those conclusions. A good illustration of this is in the form of a number game. I give you 3 numbers, 10, 15, and 25, and you have to guess the pattern. You're able to give me various series of 3 numbers, and I'll tell you whether or not they fit the pattern. When you think you know the pattern, you can ask me, and I'll tell you whether you're right or wrong. You form a hypothesis that the 3 numbers have to be divisible by 5. You test multiple sets of numbers, but you only give me numbers divisible by 5. Through testing, you learn that I say yes when the numbers are in ascending order, and no if they aren't, so you update your hypothesis so that it's numbers both in ascending order and divisible by 5. After a while of testing more sets that fit this pattern, you are confident that you're correct. You tell me your hypothesis, and I tell you that you're wrong. You ask me for the real answer, and I tell you that any set of numbers in ascending order fit the pattern. They don't have to be divisible by 5. So what did you do wrong? You let yourself give in to bias. You had a theory and already assumed you were correct, so you never bothered to test anything that would have proved you wrong. If you had tested something as simple as 1, 2, 3, you would have realized that your hypothesis was wrong, and you'd be able to form a new one, hopefully closer to the truth. When it comes to ghost hunting, it can often be the same. Alternate theories are often not considered or tested at the time the data is collected, and I think that's a shame. I may not think ghosts specifically are very plausible, but I do think there's a lot out there that we don't really understand, that we could learn so much about that might currently be mislabeled as maybe ghosts. There's just so much to consider, even other supernatural explanations. I remember one time reading this fun theory about how maybe instead of ghosts being what's left behind of a person when they die, instead ghosts are just due to places where time is thin. Because time is thin, if someone is on the other side, you'd be able to sort of see them, and hypothetically they'd be able to see you. I don't know if I think this theory is any more plausible, but I do think it's cool. I'd love to see people test theories like this, because who knows what we'd learn. I'd even love for people to test relatively mundane theories, such as seeing if the magnetic fields in the area are having an effect on people and electronics. Or checking for any gas in the area, either from a leak or a natural deposit, since the fumes can cause hallucinations and delusions. Or checking what kinds of mold is in the building for the same reason. Or even tracking the stories people tell to see if the number of stories increased after one got popular, and it's just people's minds tricking them into seeing things that aren't there because they think something is supposed to be there. It may not be as satisfying as ghosts, but we'd still be getting valuable information. If we assume ghosts aren't real, we'll have learned the true cause of ghost encounters. But if we assume that ghosts are real, ruling out these mundane reasons by testing them allows us to unmuddle the data. It can be difficult to get an accurate picture of what ghosts are and how they work if half our data is actually about mold-induced hallucinations or how magnetic fields interact with electronics. All in all, I'd like to see more science in paranormal investigation. If ghosts are real, I want to know more about them and how they work. Conceptually, I find the idea of ghosts interesting, so I'd love to see more reliable information. But what do you think? Are you a believer or a skeptic? And regardless of which you are, what do you think of the current approach to paranormal investigation?